Hey, this is Shaun with the Atlanta Tennis Podcast, powered by Go Tennis. Check out our calendar of Metro Atlanta tennis events at letsgotennis.com. And if you're a fan of Bull Shark Sports, go to shop.letsgotennis.com and get yourself a hoodie or a hat. And while you're there, check out the Atlanta Tennis Monsters collection just in time for Halloween. Today, this is Youth Sports Talk with Coach Ben Hestley. Today's talk asks the question, is the cost of youth sports costing your kid? Ben, you ready to talk youth sports?
Yeah, let's dive in.
All right, today we ask the question of costs. Ben, where do you want to start?
Let's just look at a couple of these sports. We know as a youth sports coach, as a parent myself, we know these costs are only going up and up, and there's varying reasons why. And for parents that want to play youth sports, I mean, quite frankly, it's become inelastic demand, right? It sometimes feels like these sports programs can charge whatever they want, and we're still willing to pay it because we want so badly for our kids to play sports and be involved in sports. But just something funny is looking at some different studies that are out there. Shaun, I'm just going to ask you, if I were to ask you, Shaun, what do you think the most expensive youth sport is? What would you say?
I'm struggling to sift through my own bias because being in one of the two most, in my mind, expensive sports or fancy sports or country club sports, my assumption would be tennis or golf. And in that case, I'm going to guess golf.
All right. Golf really didn't come up, but what did come up was, I mean, golf is expensive, but I would say, and my golf people might argue with me, but like youth golf or junior golf is probably one of the lower end in terms of popularity than opposed to some of the more mainstream sports. Your baseball, your soccer, your basketball, your football, and then ice hockey.
But that wasn't what you asked. You asked which is the
I
most
did. That's right.
not
Fairness,
popular.
I did not ask. So to be clear, I guess I don't really know what the cost of golf is. Although we can
Okay.
assume it's super expensive because the lessons are super expensive. The pay to play, the course is super
Range
expensive.
time, all of that, yeah.
The tournaments are going to be really expensive because a lot of times, and what parents sometimes don't realize is when you play tournaments, regardless of what sport it is that you're absorbing by paying these entry fees, these tournament fees, you're absorbing the cost of the fee of the facility rather for whatever organization it is that's running the event. So if a junior golf event is being run at Druid Hills Golf Club, that's not free for the organization. The organization is coming in and they're having to rent the facility from Druid Hills Golf Club, and then they're passing the buck, literally passing the buck to you, the parent. So yeah, the more expensive or the nicer the facility, it's great that our kids get to play with these nice facilities, but the nicer facilities, just be warned that there's going to be more cost for that. Yeah, because the associations and organizations that run these events, they've got to pay for those facilities. But what actually came up that was interesting to me, and I sort of anecdotally knew this. I don't have a lot of experience in ice. I have actually zero experience as a parent or a coach in ice hockey. My experience draws upon a couple kids that I know that play ice hockey, and they've gotten into it, which is not the most popular sport in Atlanta, but there is a kind of a small demographic that's really into ice hockey. But ice hockey is seems to be one of the most expensive youth sports, and for obvious reasons, right? The equipment is super expensive, all the padding and stuff, the skates that the players need to wear, the hockey stick itself, and then obviously the upkeep of the facility, right? Like I have to just imagine without crunching numbers, my common sense brain tells me that running an ice hockey rink is probably more expensive than running a soccer pitch.
I don't know.
You don't think so?
You've got external factors outside on a soccer pitch that you don't
Okay.
have. You're talking about
recent hurricanes.
a living thing with the Bermuda or the rye or whatever you're growing there. That's a unique thing. It's like keeping track of a golf course. It's tough. Now, I don't know the
You
comparison.
must be playing at the high-end country club of soccer.
Country club, that was me, definitely. Country club of soccer, yes.
A lot of these places now are turf. So yes, the upfront cost is super expensive, but the maintenance, the trade-off for turf obviously is the maintenance is less.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't want to dive in. We can do a whole nother, turf management
Right.
type podcast later. But the point is that, what I found was ice hockey is expensive, and they do list at a lot of its rink fees associated with keeping up with the facility, its equipment costs, and then tournament and program fees. But interestingly, I found in a 2022 study by Project Play that the most spent, so the top spender, so the parents spent the most money on the sport of soccer, which was interesting because you got to think soccer is a grass field, a goal, a couple goals, and a ball. Like, how expensive could it really be?
I would have absolutely guessed it was one of the cheapest because it's a third world sport. You need a ball, some kids, and a thing to aim at. You kick the ball in the hole and you get a point. Like it doesn't take much. Now, are we guessing because we've got the fancy cleats and the shin guards and the high end uniforms, and do we pay the coaches and the referees? I mean, I can't figure out, did it describe why soccer got so expensive?
Yeah, it did. And before I tell you that, I love that you mentioned about third world sport, right? And because when I was in Costa Rica, I've been to Costa Rica twice, luckily enough, love Costa Rica. And one thing I noticed when I went there is as you drive down any Costa Rican street and there's just pasture land on either side, every piece of pasture land, I'll call it, okay, has two soccer goals on either end.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, they don't have nets, right? They're just a aluminum or sometimes just even old school wood, just goals. So they all have them, right? And they're just pickup games all over the place, right? So how can we take that? It's just a simple concept, right? A ball and two metal goals, and we make it the most or a sport that parents spent the most money on in 2022. And the answer is the professionalism of youth sports. And so the cost for soccer really comes from program fees and tournament costs, particularly when you look at like these travel ball or select or academy level teams, whatever you choose to call them. But league fees and tournament costs. I mean, even in my area, our recreational soccer can be anywhere from $250 to $400 per season for rec soccer. You get into like travel soccer.
That season consists of what? Can we compare it to an
Yes,
American football season
3 months.
or tennis?
August, middle of. Your fall. We're in the fall. Your fall soccer season is going to run
10 weeks.
Yeah, you're talking middle of August to the end of October, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, so 8 to 10 weeks. Yeah.
Okay, and but soccer does what do they do? 3 practices a week and games on the weekends. Where tennis, for that, you only get 1 day a week, right?
Yeah.
For that amount, I'm trying to wrap my head around the comparisons of okay, well, I'm paying $400 a season. If everything being equal, let's say if everybody had $400, what do you get from your American football program? What do you get from your soccer program? What do you get for tennis? Golf, like how much would that pay for? Would the seasons look
in tennis it wouldn't go very far. Now,
right.
the study only did in the Project Play study only did basically the marquee what I call like a mainstream team sports.
Okay.
Your soccer, your football, your basketball, your baseball. It didn't dive into the individual sports like tennis or golf in terms of family spending. They may not have those numbers, They may not have those numbers. So, but yeah, I could tell you right now, if you wanted to hire me to be your kid's tennis coach, $400, we're going to burn through $400 in a couple of weeks,
right.
With as much as which is another thing that we can dive into next is let's focus on not so much the individual thing, because you can do that with baseball. I mean, if you want to take 3 baseball lessons a week, there's $300 right there.
Right.
Every sport now is going to where they have an individualized or personal coaches. But let's look at like the travel costs of some of these sports and how maybe we can help parents, mitigate or at least rationalize some of that expense.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we go to a parent and say, okay, look, you're going to spend $400 on your soccer season, but that's not negotiable. That comes with the uniform, and that's the thing you have to do.
Yeah, that's a fixed cost if you want to play. That's either play or don't play.
Right.
So $400 or nothing.
On top of that, I got to buy my kid new shoes because kids are always different sizes every year.
Yeah.
And new shoes. Probably the socks come with the uniform. So now I got to get the upgraded shin guards because now he's in the 10 and under league instead of the 8 and under league, or however that works, right? So is that it though? Are they including traveling and my hotels for the weekends? And this is probably why they don't dive into the tennis numbers, because I'm guessing,
Yeah.
honestly, and maybe it's my own bias, and I'm willing to admit that, but tennis and golf has got to be way up there when it comes to the travel of being able to go and stay overnight,
Yeah.
the travel systems. But I guess that's true in any sport. You still got to take mom or dad or both and all go spend the weekend in Columbus or Savannah or wherever.
Right. And so are we really, so the question becomes all these travel expenses. That's something that we can dial down, right? Now, you may have a team that says, "Hey, we're going to play," and this is some for parents to do their research. You go, "Hey, it's going to be $1,000 a season." A season, by the way, is like you said, just 8 to 10 weeks. So if I play all 3 seasons, my team's going to play fall, they're going to play spring, they're going to play summer. So that's $3,000 just to get on the field, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're not going to tell you how much it's going to cost to go to travel, to hotel fees, all this stuff. So as a parent, figure that out. Hey, what is it? What is the schedule? What is the schedule of this team? Are we taking 4 out of state or out of town overnight trips? Right.
Right.
Well, honestly, depending on your level of play, that might be a little bit ridiculous, right? So find a program, or if you yourself decide. Now, sometimes in my case, it's the coaches that travel ball coaches and baseball, they're deciding. They're often a parent is the one deciding this stuff. Like we want to go to Pigeon Forge, we want to go to Myrtle Beach, you want to go to Disneyland, whatever. Like, okay, well that's a huge expense to do that, and is it really worth it? And is your kid at the end of the day, youth sports should be about your kid getting better at youth sports. We can have some great experiences, but let's not break the bank to do that. So my first advice would be to play local if you can. Some
Okay.
areas are strapped because you're in a really small community. You have to travel to play, to get competition, I should say, at your level. Okay. Which kind of brings me to a Wayne Bryan quote. I remember Wayne Bryan saying this. I'm going to paraphrase it a little bit because of what he said, but he basically said this. It was about playing local, right? Like, if you're not the best player in your town, stay in your town.
Right. Where else do you need to go?
When you become the best player in your town, then you can go play across the state.
Right.
When you're the best player in your state, then you can go play somewhere nationally. Or what he said was sectionally. For tennis guys, it's local, state, sectional,
Right.
then national. So when you're good at your state, when you're the best kid in your state, go play other kids in your section, your region of the United States. When you're
Or
the best
play.
kid in the region of the United States,
Right.
then go look to play national competition.
Or play up an age group, because there's the other option is you can play local, and if I'm 10 in the 12 and unders, go play a 14.
Yeah. Right.
So you
Yeah.
can
So
stay local even there and say, I'm going to take it up a notch without having to travel to California for my next tournament from Atlanta. Now, if you're in the nationals, you're in the level ones, level twos, those kinds of things. Yeah, maybe there's a reason for that.
yeah. But I always liked what he said with that, because it
Yeah.
makes total sense to me, right? A lot of times where I always remember a fishing guide I had years ago, and we're drifting down the river, and I'm making these like huge long. If you ever seen the movie A River Runs Through It, one of my favorite films. I'm making these Brad Pitt style casts, man. I'm just chucking this thing out there, whatever, 40, 60, 80 feet, and the guy's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm
Feeling
like,
good about myself.
what do you mean, man? These casts I mean, I'm on fire, dude. Look at these casts. He's like, yeah, but the fish are right here by the boat.
I brought you to where the
He's
fish
like,
are.
you're casting over the fish. He said, never cast over the fish. So and that to bring that point back to here, I'm like, a lot of times in youth sports, we're casting over the fish. We've got all these fish right here in our local community that can help us get better, right? Help us develop.
I think that's a
But
show title. That's our show title.
but
Don't
yet
cast over
we
the fish.
but yet we cast over, and I'm not saying anything wrong with experience. And I've taken some kids on some really fun trips.
Yeah.
But day in, day out, week after week, right? Play local if you can play local. And don't cast over the fish. Find something that makes a lot of economical sense all right, to help your kid get better. I'll tell you one thing that a parent used to, of one of my teams I did coach, we had a group me page, which most teams have a group me thing. And she would put out there, hey, we're going to the park today. Who wants to join us? And 3, 4, 5 people. Yeah, okay, yeah, we got nothing going on today. We'll go to the park. And all of a sudden we show up at the baseball park and there's 5, 6, 8 kids, and all of a sudden we got a pickup game going on. And we're doing what I would term as free play. I'm reading a book right now called The Anxious Generation. And in The Anxious Generation, it talks a lot about this, about the absence of free play now, because everything is so organized. Everything has to be an organized game. Everything has to be an organized practice, an organized league or tournament. And the kids now are missing that free play when they sort of organically learn a lot of social and physical development stuff.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So number one advice is play local. You got more for us?
Yeah, play local. What I just mentioned there, I would say play more free play. Can you get a bunch of kids? And we talked about the wiffle ball thing with my son, but like, can you get a bunch of kids together at the local park or local school and play some wiffle ball? Or play some soccer. I have a dad. His son is a great soccer player, and honestly, he doesn't adhere to the traditional parent schedule. Right? He doesn't. His kids could play on it. His kid, arguably, I would assume, watching him play, could make a lot of these, select and academy teams locally, but he doesn't subscribe to that. He's like, we'll play our local league, and then what he does is he actually gets kids from the neighborhood. I don't care if he plays soccer or not, right? Come out and play, and he'll get kids, and he'll kind of, he doesn't necessarily organize it. He organizes you getting there, but like he just kind of watches and everything like this, and so the kids are just kind of playing soccer. There's playing soccer, kind of like you would see. I mean, he's from India, so that's pretty common where he comes from. That they just show up at the pitch and play, and so that's commonplace to him. Whereas us more Americanized people, it's that where's the uniforms, where's the cleats, where's the coach, where's the referee? Like we need more of that. So more free play for your kid. Number 2, and number 3, and last thing I'll probably say with this is make vacations a vacation. I think I talk to a lot of parents, and I experienced this myself as a traveling tennis player. Is you would always say, "Oh, let's make it a vacation. We got a tournament next week in Charlotte. Let's just make a vacation out of it." Like that never happens. That never happens. And I'm gonna tell you, parents, if you're going to your next travel ball event and thinking we're gonna make a vacation out of this, don't do that. Because what happens is the parent is super stressed trying to make it a vacation. Your stress scales down to the anxiety of your kid. Okay. All right. If you're going to play a big tournament, you're going on a tournament trip. The point of the trip is the sport that you're playing, not the vacation part. Now, some places may say, like I know, like some beach, so if you play a tournament like near a beach, they might give you like a day off as a beach day, or like, hey, we're only going to play morning matches this day so the kids can go to the beach in the afternoon. But that's not a vacation, okay? That's a day off. That's a few hours off, I mean, if you come to Atlanta for a big tournament, you might get a night off where you can go catch a Braves game. But if you think you're going to run down to Six Flags for 3 or 4 hours and then back up to back up to Ackworth for your next game or match, like you're totally kidding yourself, and you're only adding stress to to what already exists with the sport itself. So if you do play a travel event, make it about the event, make it about the sport, but then schedule some vacations that are true vacations where you're not having to play a sport, you're not having to compete during that sport. You might, do like my family does, go throw the frisbee on the beach, or go, go play catch in the mountains. That's kind of fun and different. But your vacations are your vacations, your competitions are for competition. Don't try to intermingle the two. It just creates stress for everybody.
That's good advice. So we've got 3 things. The question is, do the cost of youth sports end up costing your kid? And the short answer, it sounds like yes, unless money is unlimited for you, which there are some people basically with that. But unless money is not a problem, then yes, it is costing your kid. And you've got some advice. You say, number 1, play local. And I would say you can even extend your local play past Wayne Bryan's advice, and playing up an age group might keep you playing local even longer. More free play, which I love. That's great for kids to self-organize. That means a lot for them because we don't let that happen enough. Even if the parents are hovering around, let it happen at least a little bit every once in a while. And vacation is vacation, even if a tennis match breaks out on vacation, which is okay, or a soccer game on the beach. That's great too. But I like that. So in that case, in our episode that I am definitely going to title, "Don't Cast Over the Fish." That's going to be our title for sure. Do you think we answered the question today, Ben?
I hope so. There's some costs that are fixed, right? You want your kids to play sports, league fees, tournament fees. Those are going to be they're on the rise. They're going to go up. They're fixed costs for you, man. You can't get around them. But what you can do is create a schedule that's more economical for you and your family, but also more advantageous to your kid. And when we talk about cost, we think immediately to finances, but what's the development trade-off? I mean, I can play a bunch of tournaments, but am I really getting better? It's the whole piece. It's everything. It's a holistic approach. Like we often say in the business world, do you have 20 years experience or do you have 1 year of experience 20 times? Make sure you're giving your kids every year they're getting that experience, not just the same thing over and over again.
There we go. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. This has been Youth Sports Talk with Coach Ben Hestley. We'll see you again next week. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.